welcome back to another episode, you guys. Okay, so last week I had briefly mentioned that we might continue the Pride series this week, but then I realized that this episode comes out on July 1st. So there are more important things to talk about in that realm. But then also, Thursday was the most interesting presidential debate perhaps ever. So yeah, we just simply have more important things to discuss, and that is what we are going to do today. But before we do any of that, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you are listening on Spotify, give the show a review and a rating over there. I would really appreciate it. And all of my other social medias, as always, are linked down below if you want to check me out over there. And with all of that, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. So before we get into anything, I need to acknowledge the ghetto blanket hanging up behind me. I need to get blackout curtains. It's something I've been meaning to do. I've been meaning to do a lot with actually the background here. And I just have not gotten around to it, but the sun today was particularly bad and you could not see anything on the screen. So that's what we're working with until I get my shit together. But to get into the heart of the episode, I'm wearing my Merry 4th of Father's Day shirt with Uncle Joe because I think it is literally the perfect shirt to have on to discuss the 4th of July and the presidential debate. Could not have had a more perfect shirt, actually. So this episode comes out just 3 days before the 4th of July, commemorating our nation's birthday. But more importantly, maybe, it comes out one day before my birthday. That is right. I am turning the big old 25 tomorrow, which is insane. I have always loved sharing a birthday week with America. You get fireworks, you get cookouts, pool parties. It is spectacular. It's perfect. It's exactly what you want for a summer birthday. But that said, it was about 2 or 3 years ago that I stumbled upon some information that you may or may not know, which is Independence Day technically is July 2nd and not on the 4th. So not only did I already share my birthday with 2 early 2000 icons, Ashley Tisdale and Lindsay Lohan, but also America. Let's go, baby. Let's go. In the competition for best birthday date, I got you beat. And I know what you're thinking. But the document itself says in Congress on July 4th, 1776, I know, but there's more to the story. There is more to the story. Because while the document itself was signed on the 4th, the vote for independence happened and went through and was passed on the 2nd. In fact, our very own founding father, the second president of these United States, John Adams, was so confident that it would be the 2nd in which we would commemorate our independence, that he wrote in a letter to his wife Abigail, the 2nd day of July will be the most memorable epocha in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. In fact, he felt this so much that he supposedly rumored to have refused to go to celebrations that occurred on the 4th because he believed that this was a day to be celebrated on the 2nd. And obviously we cannot confirm nor deny these allegations, but I feel like people back in those days were incredibly dramatic. And so it would not necessarily surprise me. Speaking of being dramatic, Adams disliked our independence being celebrated on the 4th so much that he died on it. He died on the 4th of July. Now that is a statement. That's a bold statement. That is a guy who is sticking by his beliefs, by his standards, by his beliefs, by his convictions. And if that wasn't enough, Thomas Jefferson also died on the 4th of July. That same 4th of July, actually. They both died on 4th of July in 1826. And the weirdness does not stop there. James Monroe died on the 4th of July in 1831. And for those of you who don't know, Monroe was our 5th president. So it's it's almost like the universe is trying to tell us something, that maybe it's supposed to be celebrated on the 2nd. Because if you're keeping track, that is 3 out of the 5 first presidents of these United States who died on the 4th of July, on Independence Day. That's a weird coincidence. That's a very weird coincidence. In fact, it was something that did not go unnoticed even back then. The New York Evening Post wrote on the 5th, by a coincidence that has no parallel, 3 of the 4 presidents who have left the scene of their usefulness and glory expired on the anniversary of the national birthday. Now, does this matter in any serious way? Of course not. Of course it doesn't. But I was really racking my brain for what I wanted to talk about this week, and it just kept coming back to me. I felt like I really needed to get this out of my system, get this rant out, and it's actually kind of a perfect segue to get us into the debate, which we are going to talk about for the rest of this episode. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Because I swear, if the founding fathers could see the state of America, they would be rolling in their graves. They probably are rolling in their graves. My God. Because sometimes it feels like we have strayed so far from the initial values of this country. Because once upon a time, we threw out hundreds of barrels of tea because we were being overly taxed without any representation, taxation without representation, that whole thing. Flash forward to today, where there's a whole subset of our country that is begging for more taxes, because we all know that the government spends our taxes so well. They do such good things, such useful things with our money. They're rolling in their graves, folks. They are rolling in their graves. But with that, let's get into the debate, because it is not something that we can avoid. We must talk about it. And honestly, I want to talk about it so bad. It was a shit show. Yeah. But it was a shit show that personally benefited what I want the outcome of the election to be. So let's discuss, shall we? Now, I'm going to be honest. I had some reservations initially going into this debate because it was going to be on CNN with biased moderators. And we've seen how moderators have treated Trump the last 2 election cycles. They haven't exactly been fair, and it's been very frustrating to watch those debates. So I was kind of hesitant to even watch this one. No live audience. And there's just like a bunch of weird stuff surrounding a bunch of weird rumors surrounding this debate, but nonetheless, I persevered and I watched it, and I am so glad that I did, because just an overall summary would be that Trump did exactly what he needed to do. He was composed, he was in control, he didn't, for the most part, I would say maybe the 30 minutes, he definitely started going on his Trumpian rants, but for the very, very, very most part, he was in control, and it was what he needed. Just for example, when they questioned him about January 6th, because of course they did, instead of going off on that and going off on 2020, which people are really tired of hearing about, he said on January 6th, we had a secure border. We had a secure economy. We were secure overseas. He just started listing all of the things that were going well at the end of his presidency, and flash forward to today, these things are completely in chaos, and he really let the referendum be on Joe Biden, and he shut up long enough to let Joe Biden bury himself, and holy shit, did Biden bury himself. Oh my God. Biden mumbled and misspoke, and overall, he just looked bad. I mean, it was bad enough to where at the end of the debate, CNN anchors were saying that he needs to step down. He can't run this. He cannot run. This is insane. Which of course we've been saying all along, but it's looking actually like it might be too late. I know in a couple of swing states, I think Nevada for sure, and Wisconsin might be the other one, where it's already too late. You cannot get his name off of the ballot unless he dies. I'm not suggesting anything. I feel like that needs to be said. Frankly, you can't sit there and watch this debate and look at these two men standing next to each other talking and not admit that Biden looks frail and weak and Trump looks the exact same that he has for the last 20 years. I mean, the man has not changed. So if we're being honest, and if we're not Harry Sisson, which we will get into in a little bit, then we can acknowledge the fact that Joe Biden got his ass whipped. CNN did a poll, and I think it was like 30-60 people who think that Trump won, which is concerning. I wonder who those 30% are. Did you watch do you know which one's Trump and which one's Biden? I'm curious. So just to get into the debate itself, we're not going to go through in great depth because it was an hour and a half long. But a couple key points was on the topic of abortion. Trump gave a very, very, very rational, level-headed answer. He, of course, said that he would not support a national ban because that's what they're trying to push on him, is that he'll ban abortions nationwide, which is the most insane thing. If you are paying the least amount of attention, I mean, literally the least amount of attention, then you would understand, hopefully, if you have a brain cell, that the overturning of Roe v. Wade, all that did was take the power from the federal government and gave it to the states. So if the power has been taken from the federal government and given to the states, tell me how Trump, who would be part of the federal government, could implement an abortion ban, because the federal government does not have that power any longer. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. This should be a state's issue, and it is now. So that's good. Now, Joe Biden, on the other hand, because this is supposed to be Trump's weakest issue, right, is abortion, and it's supposed to be Biden's strongest issue. I made a video the other day going through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tweets between him and Kamala about abortion. It's insane. I'll just let Joe Biden tell you what he said himself.
To the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you. So this was only about 10 or 15 minutes in, and he managed to immigration abortion. He managed to switch the topic from his strongest issue, his only strong issue, by the way. This is his sole issue. This is all he's got. This is all he has. And he turned it into his weakest issue by far, the border. I mean, that felt like God was in the room and just gave us this. This was a blessing from God. I mean, he truly could not have fumbled this any harder. Yeah, that's... He also went on immediately after this saying that people are being raped by their in-laws and brothers and sisters. First of all, I don't know how an abortion would have to be procured by someone that was raped by their sister. Just the whole thing is weird. But that's Joe Biden for you, and I don't think everything he says is weird. He's a weird guy. And then on the topic of immigration, there was this phenomenal moment. This was such a good moment.
Relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
I don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think that he knew what he said at the end of that. I was thinking before the debate, he needs to let Biden talk and mumble jumble and do what Biden does, and then just subtly call him out on it and move on. And that's exactly what he did. I swear. I don't know who his advisors are, but they are reading the room perfectly. And I'm so glad that Trump listened to them. Another phenomenal moment was that at one point, Biden claimed that Border Patrol endorsed him and backed his presidency and his plan for the border. And in live time, the Border Patrol Union tweeted out saying, to be clear, we have never and will never endorse Joe Biden. Oh my God. It's too good. It's too good. There was too many good moments in here. Another one that everyone's talking about, probably his worst gaffe in the night, because there was just like long bits of absolute silence that were occurring. And then he ends the statement saying, well, we beat Medicare. First of all, what does that mean? That's what everyone's wondering, is what does that mean? But Trump came in and says, you did beat Medicare. You beat it to death. And because that's supposed to be another one of Biden's strong issues, is that he's claiming that Trump's going to end Social Security and Medicare and all of that.
To immigration later in this block, President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroyed.
He just buried himself, man. He really did not do himself any favors. So if you're probably getting the point if you didn't watch the debate that it was a mess. It was a dumpster fire. But towards the end of it, and this is actually pretty funny because Trump held his composure very well throughout the debate. Like, he didn't even make that many faces. Trump faces, he didn't even make any until Joe Biden claimed that he is a better golfer than Donald Trump. And all hats were off.
Club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not
not
act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
Let's not act like children.
The moderators were doing such a good job of asking them a question, getting the answer, time's up, muting their microphone, going to the next one. Like, there was not any back and forth until they start debating golf. Then the moderators were like, all right, gloves are off now. And they just let their mics be on and they went back and forth and back. Oh my God. There were people from like the UK watching the debate, and the comments on those videos are so funny. People are saying things like, this is a private family matter. We are embarrassed. Could you just let us handle this internally? And it's so true. It is so true. And it's funny on the one hand, but then it's also not funny, right? Because people in Russia and China are also seeing that. So joy. But that's like the direct debate stuff. But then there's a lot of aftermath that occurred as well, naturally. And I would say the biggest one is the mass call from Democrats, especially Democrats in the media, for Biden to step down because he's old and put on a shit performance, and it's very clear that he's senile. And I just find that to be so interesting because it's those very same people that are now calling for him to step down after this, who have been telling us for the last 4 years that he's doing cartwheels behind the scenes, that he's sharp as a whip, that he is witty and so with it that his aides can't even keep up with him. These are the same people who've been telling us this. These are the same people who've been gaslighting us into trying to make us believe that Biden is with it. And most Americans didn't fall for that because we're not retarded and we can see and hear, but a certain subset did fall for that. And so I guess they are just quaking in their boots to see that Joe Biden's old at 82. And I just guess we can add it to the list of right-wing conspiracy theories that are very obviously true, but can't be acknowledged or talked about until the media says so. I mean, wasn't it just a couple of weeks ago that Karine Jean-Pierre was calling that video of Biden at the G7 event wandering off and having to be redirected back to the group a cheap fake? What the hell is a cheap fake?
Wondering if
the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more of all.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem.
It reminds me of malinformation when they try to say, oh, this is malinformation, meaning like, oh, it's true, like that information is technically true, but the public knowing it is harmful. So be so for real. Be FFR. Come on. Because here's the point, is they gaslit the hell out of the American people, and they will continue to do so because that is their job. I feel like people have become so reliant on what CNN or Fox News tells them to think or believe, instead of just trusting your own senses, trusting what you are seeing with your eyes, trusting what you are hearing, trusting what you are experiencing. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, for example, my groceries cost 4 times as much as they did 3 years ago. And yet I have Joe Biden and people on CNN saying, well, the economy is actually doing really good. The economy is doing really good. Inflation's not that bad. You can say that. Free speech. You can say that. I don't fucking believe you, because my $50 grocery trip is now $120. So, you can trust your own senses, you can trust common sense, or you can be a little sheep and get let out to the slaughter. I don't care. Do what you want. Now, because there are all of these calls for him to step down, it does beg the question of how would that work? Because as far as I can tell, he has to be the one to step down. They can't just replace him. He has to choose to step down, and he is a cranky old man, and I don't think he will. And a lot of people are also saying that Jill Biden, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, with her education degree. Now, a lot of people are saying that she's kind of the one behind the scenes that is pushing for him to continue to run. And for the life of me, I can't understand why. Like, I can't really unless it's just like genuine narcissism running amok in this woman. I can't think of a reason. I mean, this is your husband. You're supposed to love this person. You're supposed to care for this person. And he is old and senile, and he's dying. And it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But in the scenario where he does not step down, he will lose in November. If this is a fair and free election, he will, and it won't be close. It won't be close. This debate just, I think, cemented that. I think a lot of people who might have been on the fence are now not on the fence, one way or the other. I do not think that it will be a close election at all, actually. So we are getting ready to end the episode, but before we do, there are just a couple other noteworthy things. First of all is the fact that, as expected, the sole human being who was rallying behind Biden throughout the debate on Twitter was none other than Harry Sisson. We've talked about Harry before on this channel. And the things that this kid was saying that night. He also apparently did an interview with Piers Morgan, and that was so embarrassing. Piers is like, Harry, you are the only one. You are the only one that is sitting here saying that Joe Biden is able to that he's not old, that like this isn't. And Harry's just like, I don't know what that was. I apologize. It's just how he sounds to me. Like every time he talks, I just hear. But here are some of the things that he was tweeting out, and it's just like they're just so cringy. It's such typical like pundit language. Every tweet starts with a wow or holy crap or my favorite, boom, boom, Biden just dunked on Trump, boom, something, boom. Oh my God, he's such a dork. He is such a dork. I get such bad secondhand embarrassment from him. And aside from that, they decided to send Kamala Harris out to do cleanup, I guess. How embarrassing is it to be a middle-aged woman and your mental capacity and your mental abilities is not any better than a senile 82-year-old man. That's pretty humiliating. And she said, in one of the interviews, ironically, Harry Sisson quoted her on Piers Morgan that one 90-minute interview does not deter 3 years of success or whatever it was. And again, I come back to stop gaslighting me. Stop gaslighting me. Stop telling me that the last 3 years have been the best in American history. Things are expensive. My food is expensive. My gas is expensive. Foreign affairs are crumbling. The border is wide open. Things are not good. Things are not good. And I'm tired of being gaslit. I'm so tired of being gaslit. But, you know, she did her best. She did her best and tried to come out here and say whatever it is that she had to say. On X, I did say, if I ever fumble as hard as Joe Biden just did, please take me out back with a shotgun before you send Kamala Harris out to my defense. Please. Please. And by the way, do make sure that you are following me on X. It is linked down below, and it is by far my most unhinged social media. And it's always a good time over there. So we could go on. We could go on and on about the debate because it felt like every single thing that was said is worth talking about. It really, really did. But I like to keep things short and sweet. And also, there's probably about 1,500 other commentators who are dissecting the debate line for line. So go check out one of those. And with that, I hope that you guys all have a wonderful 4th of July week. And if you're feeling extra fun, do something fun tomorrow for my birthday, but also America's actual birthday. All right, guys, I will talk to you next Monday. Bye.